where the West begins in Fort Worth, Texas, to around the globe. You are listening to Talk of the Night. And now, your host, Paranormal Phil. Thank you, and good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the world, around the globe, or even in your own backyard. I am Paranormal Phil, and later on in the show tonight, we're going to be joined by my guest, Angela Thomas, as we talk about remote viewing, psychic abilities, and all that good stuff. But first, up on the Talking of the Night website, under the story of the day, Nevada remote viewer helped solve California murder. People in the paranormal gather in Green Valley Ranch next month. When remote viewers gather next month at Green Valley Ranch, they will enjoy a more notably than in the past. A lead police investigator said, with the help of remote viewing, a California court convicted a swindler of murder last year. Remote viewing, a type of ESP, which was studied in the 1970s by the U.S. military as a way to gather intelligence. Dozens of books have been written about remote viewing. Some of those were written by people part of the Stargate program. Some remote viewing has been used for reasons ranging from business interests, locating missing people, to solving murder cases, and so much more. And of course, you can read that by clicking on the link below the story up on the Talking of the Night website. So let's get into a little bit about my guest before we bring her on, and let me scroll up here. Angela Thomas is a professional psychic and clairvoyant, noted over her 20-plus years practice in high accuracy and detail. And she said to only read a paragraph, so we'll leave it at that. So please welcome my guest, Angela Thomas, as we talk about remote viewing. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Philip. Hello.
Hello. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a professional psychic and clairvoyant, and I teach psychic development. I teach online courses in psychic development, and I also teach workshops like remote viewing and criminal casework, how to track a missing person, photo psychometry, which is coming up this Saturday online. And, I do provide private readings as well, but mainly the body of my work is in psychic development as well as remote viewing.
Okay. And I know I've talked with a lot of different people, psychics and everything like that, and tarot card readers, and everybody has a part of their abilities that they're the strongest in and everything like that. And of course, I mentioned more of my abilities is more reading people and kind of doing predictions. That's more my strong suit. What is one of your probably strongest suits?
Well, I guess you could say my expertise falls into precognition, the ability to see in the future. And I don't look for 10 years down the road because, quite honestly, Philip, I would not be able to see something 10 years down the road. I try to stay within an 18-month time frame. But for the last 14, 15, 16 years, I've been a research psychic for the study of precognition. So I am well documented on giving world predictions. So I would say that's my strongest suit, but I also do retrocognition, which is the ability to look into the past. And most psychics use retrocognition if they're doing some sort of criminal casework or even remote viewing. There's a certain part of remote viewing that you absolutely need to be able to go back in the past, especially when it is tracking missing persons. I don't generally track like airplanes or anything like that, or equipment in the jungle. Most of my remote viewing is with the the psychic forensics, which is to track missing persons.
Yeah, like me, I don't really go back that far. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, on my predictions, like, one time I predicted the path of well, not the path, but the exact spot where the eye of Hurricane Katrina hit before it even hit the east coast of Florida.
And I'm sitting in that town right now as we speak.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and then another one out in Beverly Hills. My friend took me to the David Oman house, which he's been on many paranormal TV shows. And I didn't want to know anything of the location. I didn't want to have my mind corrupted by knowing anything about the home. Or all I wanted to know was the murders happened down, because, I mean, that was general knowledge. So that's all I wanted to know. And my friend drove there, and I was riding shotgun doing navigation, and we were about 40 miles away, and I was pulling up the map because I knew we weren't going to get lost until we got to Beverly Hills, Los Angeles area. So I was like, okay, I know where we're going now, so let me pull up the house on Google Earth. And I zoomed in, and something came over me, and I pointed on the map, trying to show my friend while he's driving 80 miles per hour down the freeway. But I was like, there's a portal to the spirit world right there, right there. And he's like, don't tell me, well, tell me, but don't show me until we get there. So I told him, we got there, he goes, and David Ullman came out, and he goes, tell David exactly what you told me. So I went to the spot I was pointing out on the map, and I explained, on the drive here, I saw a portal to the spirit world right here. And David's eyes lit up, and it kind of in shock. And he goes, when my house was being built, a 5-gallon bucket of full of water tipped uphill, which is impossible without some help.
Wow.
And like I said, I just pointed it out that just because the message came to me, and it's like, well, not really. I didn't hear the message. Normally I can hear the spirits, but this was just that strong, I guess, telepathy type feeling that there's something there.
Absolutely. Well, you have those abilities, so you were able to pinpoint that on the map.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's what I've been good. Last week, I had a guest on. I had to cut the show short because I was watching the radar because we had tornado activity in the area. And I said, I'm going to have to cut the show short. I got a feeling there's a tornado headed our way. And sure enough, that storm that produced the tornado was headed our way, but it kind of went to the south, so I was lucky there. But I wasn't taking any chances. But it's stuff
Absolutely.
like that I focus in on stuff like Mother Nature and everything. And, I mean,
yeah.
That's just me on my abilities. Now, like, I can still see the spirits. I still can hear them. I can still do readings for people, even though I don't like to a lot of times because they tend to, when I open myself to the spirit world, all the spirits tend to conglomerate get around me. And sometimes if I'm in a crowded area, I get like 100 spirits or more. And it's like, shut up, I'm trying to do one thing at a time here.
Right.
So,
well, I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, spirits are attracted to certain people, and sometimes they do congregate, and sometimes, you know, what I like to say, they kind of wait in line.
Yeah.
You know, but they, to me, I think they're more considerate when they come in as groups because, they allow one person to communicate with us, say the medium, and then they step back. I don't feel like 10 people are trying to talk all at one time.
Yeah. Well,
at least that hasn't been my experience.
Well, I mean, not like all 100 of them, but I'll get like 2 or 3 besides the one that I'm trying to get the message to somebody. Because same thing with the Omen House. We used to do seances because he did ghost tours, and my team was part of the team that helped with those. And as soon as our psychic medium that was part of our team, she did the seances, and as soon as it was done, they always had me go down there because I knew exactly as soon as she was done, all of them were going to bum rush her, trying to get the message to all the people around the table. So I'm like, I'll go down there, I'll split some of them off on me. That way you're not overwhelmed, because you know, I'm pretty sure you know, you can get overwhelmed when you got a bunch of them around.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which mediumship is not my forte. I don't feel comfortable with it. So my strongest suit is psychic clairvoyancy. Mm-hmm.
So tell the listeners a little bit about your work as a psychic.
Well, like I said, I've been a research psychic for the study of precognition for quite a few years. But, I have developed certain techniques and exercises which I teach others, whether they're a beginner or even a well-seasoned psychic themselves. And it helps to expand their abilities. I'm also, I write about it. In fact, I've got This Psychic Life coming out in June, and it's a collection of short stories. I've got an MFA in writing, so I do have an advanced degree. And I just share with, readers some of the very, unusual stories that have happened throughout the year. But the bulk of my work is either through teaching others how to develop their own natural abilities or actually doing psychic readings. Now, I don't see people in person any longer. I use by telephone, or I'll jump on Zoom or Skype. But I have clients all over the world, and that's the way I'm able to meet with them and read for them, et cetera, et cetera. But I've been doing this for well over 20 years, and, it's my passion, to be quite honest with you, Philip.
Yeah, and like I said, with the radio show, that's my passion, because I can reach people all over the world, especially doing internet radio. And,
absolutely.
And then, of course, I add my expertise in the paranormal field and expertise in other things that the show talks about. Now, there are topics like technology, science, health, and wellness. I really don't have much knowledge in, but I learn when I'm researching for the guests. But other than that, I don't know that. But when it comes to the paranormal, I've been in the paranormal, or I retired, I want to say about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago from the paranormal field, because there's just not much more else that I can learn or anything like that. But I spent over 30 years in the paranormal field before retiring.
Oh, wow. Wow, very interesting. Yeah. I've done a few paranormal investigations, but only as the psychic, not as like a lead investigator or taking a team in. I'm very particular about environments. I don't go just because there's activity there. I've got to know what's in there before I walk in.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, I was invited to go along with a team to the Waverly. Mm-hmm. And I said, absolutely not, because I'm very much like, okay, all those people died of, a disease. And to me, somewhere in the cracks and the crevices, there's going to be, I always think, there's going to be a live virus and I'm going to get it. So I wouldn't do that, nor would I go into a place that was so sad. When people are suffering, whether it's through physical health or mental health, that brings up a lot of, to me, negative entities. And there is no escape from that. And so I don't put myself in jeopardy to go out and do paranormal investigations as a psychic. So I'm very particular.
Yeah,
so.
well, like me, I'm a little bit different. I mean, I've been called into cases where a Catholic priest should have been called into, but because I have the ability to cleanse the home of the darker entity. Now, I can't do the person, I can't do that, but the
right.
location, I can. And I just go into a location surrounded by a white light and go in with no fear, because I know as soon as I show any bit of fear, or if I'm not protected when I go in, I know they're going to attach to me and try to mess with me, and I don't need that. So that's why, with my reputation, that I've got called into. There was a case we called the Demon Behind the Garage case, and we were there just to talk with the client, and she wasn't there. Her sister was there, and she was kicking the client out. And she started out nice, and then our psychic that was there, she didn't even notice it, but I kind of noticed it, not quite out of the corner of my eye, but I saw these red glowing eyes behind the garage, and this thing, as soon as it saw me, it jumped into her, and she started going, "You need to get out of here." We're standing out in the middle of the street, a public street, and she's like, "You need to get out of here." And I saw that thing go from the garage to her, into her, to change her attitude, her demeanor right away. And our psychic didn't even notice it. She might not have been looking, but yeah, I noticed it. And I was like, yeah, let's go and we'll talk to the client somewhere else. Well, that darker entity tried to follow us and it made me a little bit ill, but it could not do it much more than that. But a lot of times when I get into like cases like this, locations like this, they tend to run from me because they see that bright white light. They know I'm not going in with fear.
Right. Yeah, you're braver than I am, because I would not subject myself to any sort of dark entity or anything that is considered demonic. Mm-hmm. No way. I mean, I am a big believer in grounding and protecting my aura, and I'm not messing with that. I'm just a psychic clairvoyant.
Yeah, well, I mean, to each their own, have their own abilities and their strong suits and stuff. So that's just one of mine. I mean, like I tell people, like the ghost hunting shows, a lot of teams do not want to take an Alcatraz, for example. They don't want to go into a solitary confinement cell alone with the lights out or the door closed. I want to do all three.
Oh, no. You're just a risk taker, Philip.
Yeah, so. I was always the daredevil, even as a kid.
Right.
Now, when did you first realize your abilities as a clairvoyant?
Well, I mean, honestly, you know how a lot of psychics, natural psychics, will talk about childhood, but I can say in early childhood, I just thought that, you know, everybody experienced that. But it wasn't until I started to get into my teens that I realized that, no, not everyone experiences what I experience. And so my abilities grew as I aged. You know, because a child can be a natural psychic and a teen can be a natural psychic. However, there's really, you know, when can I control it? When can I call upon it? So it does take development. It takes discipline, etc. So I would say, you know, in my late 20s, early 30s, I was getting a bigger handle on it. Okay. And, you know, I've just grown since then. And so I've been teaching others how to do what I do for years now.
Yeah, and I've had people ask me to teach them how to open their third eye. And I tell them, if you're looking for a quick fix, it ain't going to happen.
Right.
It took me a long while to even develop to the abilities that I have now, but I mean, I first noticed my first spirit when I was 5 years old. And
Right.
luckily my mom was able to see spirits, so she kind of validated my abilities and everything like that. And of course, I tell a lot of people, and even guests, that I coined a term probably about 10 years ago called the Santa Claus effect. And I had to mention this. If you got small kids, have them tune away. I don't want to destroy their reality. That's not me.
Right.
But the way I describe it, and I describe it in the simplest way so people can understand it, is when we're young, we're told Santa Claus is real. As we grow older, we're told he's not real. Well, same thing with the spirit world. When we're young toddlers and stuff like that, our minds are not corrupted by the everyday world, and we're open to that other realm, that spirit world. And
Sure.
and then as we grow older, a lot of times we're told that it's not real, it's just our imagination. They're making things up, stuff like that. And that ability gets pushed from our third eye, our conscious mind, all the way back into our deepest subconscious of the mind.
Right.
So, I mean, that's...
Yeah, I think that children that naturally recognize their abilities and into adulthood, they still have to practice certain techniques and practice the discipline and practice wherever their abilities are and practice it the right way. And I've met, psychics and mediums for many years. And some of them, they just didn't practice the right way. So they did not have a great control of their abilities. A lot of them would go, well, whenever it happens, it happens. Other than that, I can't just call on it.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in practice and discipline and really learning how to do it the right way.
Yeah, and like me, I knew I had the ability to see and communicate with the spirits because, like I said, when I was 5 years old, I noticed a little boy on the top of my parents' refrigerator playing with the ball. And, of course, as a kid, I'm like, can I play?
Sure.
But it wasn't until 1992 when I was like 19 years old that I got into the field and we went by an abandoned farmhouse and decided to investigate it because there was claims of hauntings, which I learned later on that I actually saw spirit animals out in the front yard that looked real as you and me. But when I passed them and something told me to look back, they were gone and there was no place for them to go.
Sure.
But we went in there. I was interested in finding out more about the ghosts and why they were still there and everything like that, the spirits. And they were more interested in playing with the Ouija board. Well, of course, my abilities were not as strong as they are now. So they opened up the door and left it open. And something attached to me because it saw that I was not as strong. And it took a while to reinforce my abilities to get rid of it. And then just over the years, I learned different techniques of strengthening my abilities. Like now, when I was doing it, I used to meditate, and then every week I would cut out a sound that I was hearing while I had my eyes closed outside enjoying the peace and quiet, and just cut out a sound once a week until I didn't hear nothing. And that's how I went about strengthening my ability.
Wow. Yeah, mine's not that, like that.
Yeah.
You have to really stay grounded, and I'm talking about adults now, not as a child, because it really takes someone like a parent or a guardian that can find the child the right instruction or the right person to help them through it. Because some children who see spirits are very afraid initially. They don't understand. But as you get older, I really do feel, I personally am Catholic, and so I incorporate my religious beliefs into the mix, and it doesn't just go with, Catholic doctrine. I've learned a lot about spirituality and religion throughout the years, and I've also studied world religion. So, but I do feel like, I know, at least personally, I will incorporate prayer before I do any sort of psychic work.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just a matter of how each different person, each religion kind of handles it. And I don't think there's any right way to do it, as long as you are grounding yourself, strengthening your abilities and everything like that.
Yeah, when I talk about the right way to do it, Philip, I'm talking about being able to use the techniques that gives you the advantage. And then also, not everybody knows how to ground and protect their auras or their energies, or even how to use that. And there's so many people that are eager, just like in your field of paranormal investigations, there's a lot of eager individuals that would love to go on a paranormal investigation, but it would take someone with your experience to say, okay, this is what you need to do to prep before we do the investigation. This is what you need to do while we're in the middle of the investigation. These are the questions you ask or the equipment you use, et cetera, et cetera. You wouldn't send, someone inexperienced into a highly active house, for example.
Yeah. And like I was mentioning, the Omen House, he used to do tours, and of course, I never really talked to the people because the spirits in his home I knew were more of light entities and everything like that. They were more playful spirits with knocking down figurines and stuff like that, but nothing negative there unless somebody brought it. But the house next door to him, which was there on the night of the murders, he rented it one time, and he let people go in there, and it's not my tour. I'm just there to monitor the cameras and help with some of the psychic stuff. But somebody went in there that was not, I think she was probably in her early 20s, but she was new to her empathic abilities. And she came out feeling physically ill, and I'm sitting there watching the cameras because I had to make sure that if I'm seeing something, I got to write it down, timestamp, so that way we can go back and he can put it on his YouTube channel. But she started feeling physically ill after coming out of that house, and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. And I said, stand up, close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and then imagine the brightest white light that you can imagine. And she did exactly what I said. She started feeling better almost instantly, and she goes, I'm not going back in that house.
Right.
And I don't know why anybody else went back in there or how they were affected. I know one person got held down, and there was like 6 people there trying to pick her up, and they could not pick her up.
Yeah, that's why they have people like you to go in, not people like me.
Yeah, and then, of course, I spent the 2 nights in that house.
Oh, my, yeah.
Of course, it didn't bother me, but our psychic that was part of our team, she also stayed in that house, too. On the lower level, I stayed in a room full of mirrors. I'm like, I want to stay in this room. I want to see what happens.
Oh, my.
And I guess something in the morning, she had to get up and get out of there because it was like somebody walking up on the upper levels, and I was still sound asleep because I sleep like the devil. Yeah, and I was like, I didn't hear nothing, but apparently the spirits were making a ton of noise, and she thought I was up walking around.
Sure.
And of course, we had cameras there to monitor it, so we looked back on the cameras. I didn't move. Other than tossing and turn, which I normally do. But other than that, nothing, no getting up, sleepwalking, no possession or nothing like that. So, I mean...
Which was a good thing.
Yeah, like I said, they just don't care for somebody that's as strong as me with my abilities. But I'm not going into places cocky like that, but I know exactly what I can and can't do.
Sure.
But we're going to get more into that here in a moment. But we are at the commercial break, so we'll be right back after the short commercial break with my guest, Angela Thomas, as we talk about remote viewing, psychic abilities, and so much more. We'll be right back.
All my years on the run, chasing hell, drinking devil's blood. I never caught a fire that could ever slow me down. Even fighting in the war, dodging lead, breaching rival doors. I never
Do you have a talk radio, Facebook Live, or YouTube show and would like guests for your show but don't know where to go to get them? Well, go to radioguestlist.com and sign up today. They have all different experts in different fields, and you can find the ones that are just right for your show. That's radioguestlist.com. Sign up today. It's free.
To advertise on Talk in the Night, send an email to talkinthe.night@outlook.com. Talk in the Night has plans to fit your budget. Get your product or business heard around the world by the Talk in the Night listening audience. Plans include 30-second spots and banner ads on the show's website and mentioned on the social media sites. So get your product or business heard around the world today. Shop the Talk in the Night merch store today and pick up one of the many products with 9 different designs to choose from. The store has men's and women's apparel, drinkware, houseware, and accessories. Pick up a t-shirt, coffee mug, or anything else on there and support the show today. Go to talkinthe.night.com to find a link to the merch store.
This world, it's so unkind. One day you're king, the next you're crucified. What good is true without love? What good are we if just flesh and blood? In this world, it's so cruel. You think you won the game and they've gone and changed the rules. But maybe I'm just a fool to believe there's something beautiful.
And now, back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil. Okay, and we are back with my guest, Angela Thomas, as we talk about remote viewing, psychic abilities, and so much more. So, I want to ask, what other work is included in your psychic business? You mentioned remote viewing, helping with criminal cases. What all is kind of included in what you do?
Well, I mean, as far as remote viewing and criminal casework, when I'm tracking missing persons, I also have been called to do cold cases, which, again, requires that retrocognition. When if there's a child that's been abducted, then I track the child first to locate the child, whether he or she is still living or not. And I then track the abductor, because generally within the first hour of abduction, the abductor will kill the child. And so I do that. But I also, I teach different subject matters, such as telepathy, of course, precognition, opening or stimulating your third eye, precognition, and show them how to do predictions in a nice format, not general, like, getting very specific.
Yeah.
So third eye training, psychometry, which is the ability to touch or hold something. But also, like this Saturday, I have photo psychometry. So in other words, photo readings. And you don't have to hold the photo in your hand, but it is a method of psychometry. And so you're able to pull out information about the individual or about the place, whatever's in the photograph, and draw information on it, past or present. And so there's just so much. So I also teach remote viewing, clairvoyancy, how to really use your clairvoyant abilities, and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of different workshops and a lot of different courses. I've got 3 6-week courses. And so it's just amazing. I'm so proud of my students. You got to know, Philip. I mean, when they go through the courses, they just, who's been practicing from week to week. Each class is 2 hours long. And then they take the techniques, and they get a chance to practice them in class. But throughout the week, they're practicing techniques and approaches and doing exercises. So at the end of 6 weeks, you're like, wow, they're so good.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned taking a picture and remote viewing that way. Now, have you done it other ways? Like me, I've done remote viewing, cleansing of homes. I lived out in California, and I cleansed the home in New York just by video. Have you ever, not done cleansing, but done remote viewing by video?
No, in fact, I don't use photographs to do remote viewing. I do photographs just to do photographic readings. So it would be like if someone came to you, Philip, and said, hey, here's a picture of my, this girl I met. What do you think about that? Or what do you get from that picture? And it's not, hey, is she pretty enough? Or is she, appealing enough? It's generally, what kind of vibe or what kind of energy are you getting? What kind of information are you getting? But I don't use any sort of video in remote viewing, because I do not want it to interfere with the information that I do first, because the remote viewing that I use is the same technique that the Stargaters used when they worked with the military and the government, CIA. So that's controlled remote viewing, or also known as coordinated remote viewing. But I use that method, and then when I'm doing, let's say, missing persons or cold cases, then I use my own matrices to really get to the nitty-gritty. It's a format that I use so that my mind doesn't get distracted or go astray. Yeah. It's like I'm sticking with what I need to know right now. And the one great thing about it is, after I do a case, I will do a written report, and I will send that to a police department, whoever their, liaison is. And my work is done. Now, if they need more information or they come across something and they need to talk to me, then they can call me. But generally, I type up everything so that there's absolutely no second guessing what I mean. And I'm very specific. I'm not general.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, and of course, I don't know if it's ever happened, but just telling me about that, it kind of brought up a thought. And has anybody, and like I said, I don't know if it's ever happened. I haven't really researched it, but has it happened to where somebody that has done a remote viewing for a criminal case and the police department think that it was possibly them that committed the murder or something like that?
Well, I have not heard of any instances, but, you never know, right? There's so many crimes committed and so many felonies out there that, felony murder or felony rape or felony kidnapping. But I have not heard personally of where the police would think that the remote viewer would be the guilty party. I have heard of psychics, like she's passed on now, but there was a psychic in California named Annette Martin, and she set
I've heard
precedent.
Of her. I've heard of
so
her.
Annette, the police called on her, and she gave such a description, and she gave information that had not been published in the newspapers. And they actually used her, and get this, on a witness stand in court because they had accused the man that actually did the murders. And so they actually used her in court as an eyewitness, but an eyewitness psychically. And they were able to provide evidence of the things that she did not, or the things that were not published in the newspaper. So they were providing evidence to the court that she was, a real psychic, and she had real abilities, and that she was very specific. So, so in that case, they're used with law enforcement and detectives, but I've never heard of any police officers thinking that the remote viewer was, the guilty party.
I do sometimes ask questions that throw my guests off off their game, and sometimes, but it helps me understand where they're coming from, their experience, and if they're telling a lie. Because, like I said, I can read people, so
sure.
I'll know exactly by their voice. Like, you're telling me a lie. Don't tell me a lie. I've been doing this too darn long. But no, I do love playing devil's advocate with all my guests, asking them questions that throw them off their game.
Sure.
And I don't catch that from you and everything like that. So, but now I see that you're co-founder of your psychic servicebusiness.com. What is that website all about? Does it go over all the classes and training that you do, or?
No, actually, I should update that part. We went ahead and dismantled because the co-founder is now living in another country, and it's very difficult for one person to run it. But it was brought together initially to kind of band professional psychics and mediums together and really practice the ethical part of the business. There's some bad people out there that are what I consider psychic scammers, or they do take advantage of people that may be grieving, or, like, okay, Jane Doe, take this candle, for $700. I'm just going to rent it to you. I'm going to need it back in a week. But this candle's going to help with that grief, or this candle is going to take away your problem. And there's no such item out there that is going to do that for anyone. But there's a lot of psychic scammers that would take advantage of individuals. So when we formed Your Psychic Services business, It was to say, let's set some standards here. If you're truly serious about getting into the psychic service industry, and let's follow that. And so we had a lot of articles and a lot of how to run your business and handle the money and just ethical practices alone. And then, of course, we had psychics that would contact us and certainly ask questions, or they might have a dilemma going on. And so we were there to help. But we no longer are running that. Like I said, the co-founder and I, she's in another country, and I'm doing my thing. So.
Okay, yeah, I thought I'd ask about that. Now, there was, of course, a story that's up on my show's website under Past Stories of the Day, because I read it for one guest, talking about psychics and everything like that, and I asked her about fakes and stuff like that. That was my devil's advocate question for her, but before the thing, I had this up on the story of the day, and there was a guy, M. Lamar King, in Florida, that scammed this lady out of thousands of dollars and pretended to be her dead teenage son. It was in the 60s and 70s. And he faked a headache. He went up to her room to lay down. That's what he said he was doing. But it turns out he had was scavenging around there trying to find information, because she asked for her son to give her a secret name that he would use for her. So he was like, okay, let me scavenge around, see if I can find that information. Well, he came back down and gave her that information, and he was never, he got away with it. But, I mean, there are people out there that will do stuff like that. I mean, sometimes I do ask, it almost sounds like leading questions, but like one person, I was getting an image, and of course that's not wording, so I have to kind of interpret that image to what it means. So I just asked the question, just simple as this: do you have somebody that works in the medical field? Not trying to find out any more information than that, just a simple question like that. But some people would see that as a kind of leading the person, or asking leading questions.
Yeah, I don't ask questions. What I do is I give my clients the opportunity to ask about areas of concern, like, career, home, relationship, money, business, whatever. Or they can ask specific questions about those areas. And then I ask them just to sit back and listen to the messages. So, I'm not going to be engaging in conversation throughout the reading. And if a client tries to speak to me while I'm trying to deliver the messages, the problem is with that is I may lose the message because I have information coming at me so much it passes by very quickly. So to have a conversation, that's not how I work. I don't ask questions simply because I'm not invested. In other words, I'm getting the message, I'm delivering the message, and I'm trusting the information that I'm giving. I don't say, you have kids, right? Or any sort of lead in. And for many years, I would never even see the face of my clients. Now, nowadays, I go on Zoom or Skype if they want to see me face to face, because, a lot of people don't feel comfortable, especially in the psychic side of things, if they can't see the person. But I spent many years, I didn't know what they looked like, so there was no way that, I could derive information by body language or facial expressions or anything of that nature. And like I said, I'm not really invested in the, I always tell my psychic development students that you must be willing to be wrong.
Mm.
And so that way it kind of prevents the psychic themselves from judging themselves, like, oh, I wonder what Jane Doe or John Doe's thinking. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
It avoids that nonsense and getting, entangled in ego.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also, just prevents the psychic from worrying, right? If you're invested in the outcome, that psychic's going to worry, like, oh, I hope, she gets that job, or I know she needs that job, or I hope that he gets his disability, or whatever the concern is. So I don't invest myself in the outcome.
Yeah, no,
but I am known for high accuracy, and I'm known for my details.
Yeah.
So that's why people come to me.
Yeah, and of course, I don't like doing readings for people a lot of times because that's not my strong suit. That's not my wheelhouse. So I try to avoid that. And I look for answers from the spirits themselves because I know I don't have to ask any questions of somebody else for them or anything like that, which I won't really do. But also, you mentioned about people worried about being highly accurate and right all the time and everything like that. And I've told people, no psychic is ever going to be 100% right, because if we were, we would all be millionaires winning the lotto. And I just don't see that happening.
Right. And it is a matter of interpretation sometimes. But, if I don't get the information that they're asking, because most of my clients have a ton of questions. But if I don't get something, I just simply say, you know what, I'm not getting anything on that.
Yeah.
And so, because honesty is the best way to go. And that, and they like the fact that I will say, I'm sorry, I'm not getting anything on that. Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, and sometimes people don't understand that you're not always going to get the answer that you want. You're not always going to get the loved one coming through that you want, and you just have to worry about who's coming through and receive the message. And I mean, take that validation that if it's for you or if it's not for you, let us know. I mean, that's not a message for me or anything like that. It might be somebody else that's nearby. But, I mean, like I said, nobody's ever going to be 100% right. So,
well, that's true. And, I don't offer mediumship sessions to my clients. I will recommend them to psychic mediums that's their forte. That's what they do, and they do well, and they love to do that. I like to deal strictly with the living, what's happening now, and what's happening in the near future between now and the next 18 months. And so that's where that's where I shine, I guess you could say.
Okay. Now, how long have you been doing remote viewing?
Oh, Lord. I've been doing remote viewing since about 97, 98.
Okay.
And so, and then, of course, I've used that coordinated remote viewing again on missing persons. And I initially started out with just handling stranger abductions of children. And occasionally I would do, missing persons that were adults. And then as I grew older, more of the missing adults came into play. And then I started getting phone calls for cold cases. Now, when I say phone calls, I do not deal directly with family members or friends of, let's say, the victim or the missing. Because it's really very emotional. I can't work as an emotional being. I have to work as a psychic. So I stay in observer mode. I give that information to a written, on a written report, and then I sit it into that police liaison, and they can deal with the family members.
Yeah, and I know that energy, that sadness, especially for somebody like me that can read people and feel their energy and everything like that. I feel it just as strong as they do. So that's why I tend to stay away from that myself, just because that if they're feeling really sad, I don't want to be feeling that way, or real angry. I don't want to lose it and make them mad, just because I'm feeling that energy from them, and it's affecting me.
Right. Well, when I do those cases, I'm in psychic mode. But if, Jane Doe family member called me when I'm not in psychic mode, then I feel it like a mother or a sister. I feel it then, and and I'm not effective if I'm emotionally wrapped up in, if there's a missing child or they found a child that was deceased, and somebody calls me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm emotional. But as a psychic, I'm just in what I would say, psychic mode, viewer mode, observation. And I've always kind of compared that to a well of water. That old saying, Philip, where you can't save a person drowning in a well of water if you jump in yourself. Instead, stay on the outside and throw in a rope. And so, to me, that psychic, observation mode is me throwing in a rope to help an individual indirectly.
Okay. Now, I want to real quick before we go to commercial break ask about a show that you I see that you hosted or host or did. I don't know if you do anymore. On the Fringe. Can you tell us what that's like?
Yeah, On the Fringe was a podcast show. I've kind of not done it for a while. I may get back into that. But, I had guests like Dr. Vernon Eppy, George Norrie, people of that stature. And then I did Portal Paranormal Talk Radio, and I co-hosted that show with Tuesday Miles. So we did that and had fascinating guests, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, there are some guests that I'm working on trying to get. I know there's one that I know is going to be a pain in the butt trying to get, because I heard that he does not like to really do interviews and stuff like that, and that's Dan Aykroyd. I would love to pick his brain about the paranormal, but like I said, he's very hard to talk to. Now, I'm still trying to get Lauren Coleman to talk about cryptozoology and stuff like that, because he's head of the Cryptozoology Museum up in Maine. But there's a lot of big name guests, Glennis McCants, Dr. Michio Kaku, and stuff like that. But I want to build up my listenership. And a lot of my guests have been on George Norrie. I see that you've appeared on his television show Beyond Belief. Now, what was that like, and to be able to talk to George Norrie?
Well, he's a fascinating man and a fascinating interviewer, and I thoroughly enjoyed, doing the two shows that I did on Beyond Belief. But it was very lovely. He's a nice man and very engaging, and listens and, engages in conversation. And so, I mean, to me, he's one of the best broadcasters out there. And I truly, truly mean that. He's done it for many, many years. And with him, he's also the host of Coast to Coast AM radio.
Yeah, which
and so he's done that too.
Yeah, I kind of tuned off of that show shortly after Art Bell passed away, because to me, Art Bell seemed like he was more of a salesperson on the show than anything. He would constantly, like every 5 minutes, read off like an ad or something. I get doing ads. I do 3 commercial breaks. I pay for the show somehow, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, but you see, that's not up to George Norrie. Though.
Yeah, true.
That
That's
whole
Clear
Coast
Channel.
AM is owned by a radio network,
Yeah,
and
that's
they're
Clear
the ones
Channel.
that tell those people how many commercial breaks they're going to do.
Yeah, that's Clear Channel. That's why I love doing internet radio. And like I said, I'm my own boss, so I can decide what I want to do and everything like that. But I'd rather ask more questions of my guests, take that time, than be like, okay, let's promote this thing. No, that's why I got commercial breaks. But
well, you know, Art Bell, after he left Coast to Coast, and then he started Midnight in the Desert. And so when he was with Coast to Coast, he had to take commercial breaks. But when he did Midnight in the Desert, that was his own show. Yeah. So he didn't have to do that.
Yeah. And that's a good thing about having your own show and not worrying about a big conglomerate corporation and everything like that. But we'll talk more about this and everything, remote viewing and parapsychology, telepathy, and so much more after this commercial break. Also, the phone lines will be open and the chat is open. So we'll be right back after the short commercial break.
Taking me over, making me older, making me doubt what I say now. Monsters in my head, yeah, they keep on calling, never ending, till the moment you walked in. You've got this hypnotic effect when you're next to me. One look and you help me forget I was on my knees. Where you go, keeping close to you.
The weather is getting warmer and people are out and about. Well, if you love ghost hunting, now is the time to pick up some new gear. GhostStock.com has a wide variety of equipment to choose from, and one of those items is Blue Buddy. He's back. The talking bear every investigator wants on their team. Click on the Ghost Stop banner ad at the top of the show's website and pick up your Blue Buddy today. Go to Spring.com and sign up to create your own design or choose from a design from one of the many creators on there. Spring has ways to integrate your store on social media, custom stores, and they have digital and physical products. While you're there, check out the Talk in the Night merch store. To get started with Spring today, click on the banner ad on the Talk in the Night website. Go to the show's website and click on the links for each of my guests and purchase a book or other product that they may be promoting. Without them, there would be no Talk in the Night. Whether you're interested in the paranormal, conspiracy, technology, health, relationships, or any other topic the show covers, my guests have something for you. Check it out today on TalkingTheNight.com.
Sail on off the radar and venture away from this trouble. It will find you. It's behind you. It always is. Unfold from my mind. I don't want you near. If you killed me with kindness, I'd no longer.
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil.
Okay, and we are back with my guest, Angela Thomas, as we continue talking about remote viewing, telepathy, psychic abilities, and so much more. Also, I want to mention before we get back into the questions and everything like that, that if you want to call into the show, please, we're going to delay on any kind of psychic readings. If you want to do something like that, go through her website and everything like that. But if you do have questions about stuff that we've already talked about or any other question, feel free to call in. Just make sure that the calls are under 2 minutes, just in case somebody else wants to call in and everything like that. Also on Spreaker.com, if you sign up for a free account, and you have to if you want to access the chat, but sign up for a free account. It don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. And when you click on the live show, there is a chat bar where you can type in your message and ask your questions. That way, if you're afraid of calling in to a radio show and asking questions. So I do have a question in the chat for you, Angela. And it says, does she use remote viewing for future investigations? And I don't know if she was talking, because this was asked during the first hour, near the start of the show. So I don't know.
Well, I can answer that, and thank you for that question. I do not use remote viewing for future investigations. If there is, let's say, a shady person that's been drawn to my attention, then I may use precognition to see if that person will commit a crime or commit another crime. But I don't get too many of those calls, so no, I don't use it for future crimes. And I know there was some sort of movie, I can't remember, had Tom Cruise in it, where he could see future crimes,
I think
and
that's a
that way
Minority
he
Report.
offsets the future crimes, etc. So, but no, I just use mainly remote viewing for right now, like where's that person right now, where's the abductor right now, or I'll use remote viewing retrocognitively, again going in the past. Where were they yesterday, or where were they at the time of the abduction yesterday, and so on and so forth, and where are they going, like right now, this moment, where are they going between now and the next, say, 2 hours, or now and the next 2 days, or whatever the movement is.
Yeah, and the movie that you were thinking of, I think it's The Minority Report.
Yes, that was it. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, so. I haven't seen it yet either myself. Now, I want to ask, how far into the past and how far into the future do you remote view?
I'm so glad you asked me that. I like to stay within 18 months if I'm looking into the future. So I may get shorter time frames within that 18 months. So, for example, 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months, or between now and 6 months, or between now and spring season, or, whatever way I grab that timing. But retrocognitively, I have gone way back. And so just a few short years ago, I did not think that I could go way, way back. I just thought I was pretty much limited. I try to stay within, an 18-month to 2-year time frame going backwards. But then I had an unusual request from a new client that wanted her reading all in email, like type it out and send it to me. And her aunt owned 300 plus acres. And she wanted me to remote view 300 plus acres to look for anything that may be spiritually going on, or, something, was there demons or whatever, because her aunt had a series of accidents and unfortunate events that just didn't seem normal. And her aunt was a professional. Her aunt was a doctor. And so I did that. And so as I'm typing, I thought, I often use the phrase, call me crazy, but
yeah.
So I had seen Indian mounds on that property.
Okay.
I just knew it was somewhere in the middle of nowhere. and talked about the Indian mounds. And then I came back and I said, you'll find evidence of that through your local historical society, et cetera. And then I said, and then I was in a different time, and I said, there are slaves on that property. And I said, there's evidence of slaves living on that property from many years ago, because there is a cemetery, a slave cemetery on that property. So anyway, long story short, I end up emailing her reading, and she responded back. She said, oh, no, you're not crazy. She said, we know about the Indian mounds because they're still here on the property. And we know about the slaves because there is indeed a cemetery on the property. And so I looked up, like, when were the Indian mounds, right?
Yeah.
Like, when did all that happen?
Yeah.
And it was, like, crazy. It was ridiculously far back.
Yeah.
I would have never in a million years. And I wrote a blog about. I write a blog occasionally about like Confessions of a Psychic as a blog, but I really wrote about this incident, and I was able to find the timing, and I was just blown away. I had to go to the Historical Society to find out the timing of when there were Indian mounds. So going back to your question, how far back do you go? I've been able to go back very far. And so, I wouldn't say that's typical, though, Philip.
Yeah.
If somebody said, listen, what happened in the year, 13 AD?
Yeah.
That's not going to be a typical thing.
Yeah.
If somebody said, hey, can you look back, I'll just say to 1800 or something, I may or may not be able to access it. But I can say those Indian mounds was way before the 1800s and the 1700s and the 1600s.
Yeah.
It went very, very, far, far, far before those times. So, but again, I try to stay within a short amount of time frame. And really, I don't have to use that, going way, way back too often, unless somebody needs a little history or something like that. I'm just, I wouldn't use that every day to do that, to go way, way back.
Yeah, and of course, like I've done past life regression, but I think the latest or the earliest I've gone back is like the 1800s. To one of my past lives, I was like somebody of high prominence in the Old West, and I think that's where my fascination with the Old West and the Civil War came into play. But
right.
Yeah, that's as far back as I've really gone to look back into things. I haven't really tried to go back too far because it's too much. Now, I do want to mention something because before you started mentioning about going back that far in the Indian mounds and everything like that, when you just started out about that, I was getting this message in my third eye that now I don't know if it had to do with this or not, but I was getting like the Deep South. Was that the general area, or?
You mean
where you
where
were
I'm
picking up
located,
where you were picking up the Indian mounds and stuff like that?
No, actually, it ended up being in someplace in Missouri.
Okay, well, I mean, some people would consider that the Deep South, but but I was kind of getting in that general area.
Missouri's not Deep South.
Yeah,
because I'm in the Deep South right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I was kind of getting that South vibe and everything like that.
Sure.
So I was like, it's like, shut up, I'm trying to do a radio show here right now. But they're like,
yeah, that's
adamant,
funny.
the South, Deep South, yeah, South.
That's funny.
Now we talked about you being part of George Noy's show. Has there been other work or that you've done or been part of like shows like that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of different media throughout the years, whether it's TV or radio or podcasts, and I've done so many of them. I've done like Dead Famous, which used to be in the it was the UK's #1 show back in the day when I did it, and then A&E picked up the show, and A&E in the United States did. But I've done shows on iHeartRadio. I've done the Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett. I've done a lot of different shows. So, again, radio shows, podcasts, television, film, those kind of things.
Okay, yeah, because I just wanted to ask about that. Now let's get into remote viewing and everything like that a little more. Now, when you're doing a remote viewing for someone for a case, how does that information generally come to you? And do you see it like an image or wording or what?
Yes, well, all of the above, So because I am psychic and clairvoyant, and clairvoyancy, by the way, gives you the ability to do past, present, future. Mm-hmm. But I do get visions. I do get directions. I'm highly clairaudient, so I'm hearing a lot. So it comes to me, it can get very overwhelming, but thankfully I have that matrix that I use. There's a couple of matrices that I use, again, to stay, at the information. So for example, where's the person now or the child now? What direction, how many miles, any kind of street names if they're in town or a city, any kind of road markers or any kind of landmarks. What's most difficult would be if one is remote viewing and they see, let's say, somebody in a field and there's no road marker, there's no water towers, there's nothing. Then I can say it would come to a halt then. I would give as much information as I could, especially if there's an abductor, because the abductor is not going to stay in a field. The victim is, but the abductor is not. But for the most part, you may get some sort of landmarks to give you the idea of location, where exactly you are. So, like if you're on the Mississippi Gulf Coast or in New Orleans, Louisiana, you're going to recognize that just from the energy and the pictures. Even if you've never been there, right? You may have seen a movie about it, or you'll go, aha, that's New Orleans. But then if the person was abducted from New Orleans, but now you are seeing the Appalachian Mountains, and again, you don't have to have been there, but you would have seen pictures of the Appalachian Mountains or something of this nature. So it does give you, give me, when I do remote viewing, that information. So, there's a lot to it, but I get information from guides. I get information from spirits. I get information from neither of those. I may just get it as a psychic or as a clairvoyant, and so it just all depends.
Okay.
So when I do remote viewing, I do that one way, and then I switch an approach with the matrices. So it's two different animals there.
Okay, now explain the matrices to people who might not understand that.
Well, the matrix is really a formatted report. So again, what's the distance between the last reported scene, the miles, any street names? If so, what's the street names? Or, M. It sounds like M. I get an M. It sounds like Main Street, or it sounds like this, or I'm seeing a statue. And so there's questions that any police detective is going to need to know.
Yeah.
Absolutely need to know. What's the vehicle? If there's a vehicle involved, is it foreign, domestic? What's the make? What's the model? Do you get any license plate numbers or alphabet, or do you get a color of a license plate? I did a case years and years ago for 2 little girls that went missing. And long story short, I won't go through the sad story, but I was able, suddenly I was inside of the car of the murderer who had kidnapped and murdered these girls. Mm-hmm. And I could see a parking permit sticker, how you stick it on the windshield. Mm-hmm. I could see that, and I was able to tell in the report, right, the written report, where this sticker belonged to.
Okay. And
they were able to follow it up, and they were able to get their man.
Okay, so there was a sticker with writing on it and say like I live in an apartment. It would say this such and such apartment or something like that, and you were able to see something like that.
Well, it was more detailed because it was a university.
Oh, okay.
Campus. So I was able to see the university parking permit.
Okay, yeah, now, I said, I was just worried.
I'm a former professor of a university, by the way, and every university is going to have, or every college or university is going to have their name on it, plus that parking permit.
Yeah, then that's why I was kind of getting at with the writing on and stuff like that. I just used the apartment just as an example, but
right, yeah, if it said B5 on it, then that wouldn't have told a police officer or anything. There could be a lot of B5 permits out there, but this was very specific to a university.
Okay. Now, I know, I'm trying to think of how to ask this question, because it's kind of almost a devil's advocate question, but have you ever come across someone who says that they can remote view but really can't?
Not really, because when I've taught it, they're beginning to learn that. So there's no expectations of them being able to, perform after so many lessons in remote viewing. But I've never come across someone that says they can remote view, and then I witness that they can't. What I can say I've come across very commonly are people that say, I am a psychic, and they may not know that I'm a psychic. I kind of stand back and kind of listen what they're saying, and it's all BS, so they're making it up as they go.
Yeah.
But a remote viewer, if they say they can remote view, at least from my experience, they've been able to remote view.
Okay, so I do have another question in the chat. Did she ever feel like she was in danger from using her abilities on a case?
No, that's a good question. I've never been asked that. No, I've never felt in danger, because here's the thing, that criminal does not know that I'm doing the case.
Yeah, you're not doing television interviews and stuff like that.
That what?
You're not doing any television interviews saying, this is the guy.
No. They don't know that I'm doing the case, so I'm not in jeopardy. Now, I can say, though, that, I protect myself at all costs. So, which is probably reason number 25 why I no longer see people in person. And that's like an energetic thing. You know, I don't like to, put myself in any sort of harm's way, but, just the energy of other people. But, there's a lot of crazy people out there, and some of those crazy people go, oh, psychic, that's an evil thing. And, they want to kill you. So I'm not going to put myself in that way. But going back to your question, and again, thank you very much. I've not had any of that situation. Now, if some remote viewer does a case and they make it public, then maybe, that criminal would think otherwise, like, let's get rid of the psychic. But I've never had that experience.
Okay. Now, talking about fakes and stuff like that, and I know you talked about people that really don't care for people that have their abilities and stuff like that. Now, what do you say to those that like psychic abilities or remote viewing doesn't exist, or question it with no scientific proof?
Well, the thing is that there is scientific proof.
I'm just saying that they would say there's no scientific proof, because, I mean, there's like James Randi comes to mind. Like him, I believe that he's so skeptic that even a Bigfoot was standing in front of me, be like, oh, it's somebody in a costume or something like that. But I'm talking about people like that. It
kind of miffs, and I think that any legitimate psychic out there would be miffed at that whole Randy person, because it's like, okay, we want you to act like a circus seal, twirl the ball on your nose, and I want to, I want you to give me information, and then I'm going to deny that you got it right, or I'm going to deny that you got that psychically. You may have looked it up, or you may have already known about it, or whatever the case may be. So those kind of Randys out there are just setting up anybody to fail. So you, let's say, Philip, as a psychic, you could give legitimate information, and, the Randys of the world are not going to accept that.
Yeah.
But there is, thankfully, scientists that have proof, and, like Dr. Vernon Neppe, Dr. Edward Close, Dr. Gary Schwartz, Dr. Russell Targ, Dr. Hal Puthoff. So Targ and Puthoff was, the ones that for over 25 years not only studied psychic abilities, but they also took the psychic Ingo Swann to the military, and thus they formed the Stargate program for remote viewing. But there's many doctors, and you could really go on the Parapsychology Association and see the members list, and you're going to see Dr. this and Dr. that. So we're talking about physicists that, well, even Dean Radin, right? Dr. Dean Radin, that runs Noetic Sciences through IONS. There's just so many of them. Stephen Schwartz, Dr. Stephen Schwartz. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And so, I've dealt with some of these doctors, that are scientists, and they have proof.
Yeah.
And not just, this is, it's more leaning towards this. I'm talking about mathematical, high physics proof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, there's always, like I said, there's always going to be the skeptics out there. Now, skepticism, even in the paranormal field, of any kind of paranormal field, is, I believe, healthy, because if I'm going into a location, I want roll out all the terrestrial explanations before I say anything's paranormal.
Absolutely.
If I hear knocking on the
Absolutely.
wall, could it be an animal in the wall? Could it be the pipes making sounds? Water flowing through?
Sure.
Unless I can actually
pays
see
to be,
the
it
spirit.
pays to be skeptical, but I mean, not to deny it or saying that proof doesn't exist, because it really does.
Yeah. And of course, unless the spirits stand right in front of me, then I know I can see them. Then, I mean, I kind of question the ones that are out of the corner of my eye, because our brains kind of make up things. But if they're standing right in my frontal view and everything like that, there's no doubt about it. But we'll continue talking about that here in a moment. But we'll be right back after this short commercial break with my guest, Angela Thomas, as we talk about remote viewing, parapsychology, and so much more. We'll be right back. Do you need music for your radio show, podcast, or YouTube channel, but need a music license to play it on your show? Well, go to artlist.io and check out the plans they have. They have 3 plans to choose from: personal, unlimited, and enterprise. All the music that you hear on the show is from Artlist, and there is a banner ad on the show's website. Check it out today. Do you love the strange, unusual, and weird unexplained mysteries? Do you like reading about the paranormal and other happenings? Well, I have the website for you, unexplainedmysteries.com. On there you will find so much, such as the latest news and articles, forums, news with video, and so much more. That's unexplained-mysteries.com, or you can click on the banner ad on the show's website to take you right there. Do you love history? Do you wonder what happened on this day in history? Well, check out history.com/this day in history and find out what happened on this day in recorded history. You can also click on the image on the Talk of the Night website under This Day in History and check out one of the many things that happened. The show's website lists a different event in history every day, so check it out today.
I'm flying to the moon with you tonight. I'm flying back home with you tonight. And it's so far away. And it's so long, and it's so far away.
To call into the show, Skype Talk in the Night, or by phone at 817-717-1280. Now back to Talk in the Night with your host, Paranormal Phil.
Okay, and we are back with my guest, Angela Thomas, as we talk about remote viewing, parapsychology, telepathy, and so much more. Now, again, the phone lines are open if you do want to call in, just no readings. But if you do have questions, because I've already had listeners in the chat ask questions, you can call in and ask a question like that, or you can sign up for a free account on Spreaker.com. It don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. You can chat with me during the show. I do monitor the chat and everything and chat with my listeners, because without my guests, without my listeners, I wouldn't have a show. Well, I would, but it would be kind of boring talking to myself. But I do enough of that. But let's get back into all this stuff and ask more about remote viewing. Now, I do want to ask how has remote viewing. How far has remote viewing come from the days of the government experiments with the Stargate program?
Well, there's a lot of remote viewers out there that, that's all they do, right? They use their clairvoyant abilities because that's what remote viewing ultimately is you're using your clairvoyant abilities. But there are people, even from the Stargate program, that are still doing remote viewing, and that what they're doing is they either work for corporations, not as an employee, but they offer their services, or there's some remote viewing people, especially associate remote viewings that offer investments, to invest in gold or silver or whatever. So there are proactive remote viewers out there, but they all use, whether they're using coordinated remote viewing or, controlled remote viewing, the same thing, or there are some additional steps beyond that typical controlled remote viewing protocol that allows them to do even deeper work. So remote viewing is, to me, to be quite honest with you, Philip, I still think that the government, even though they shut down the Stargate program after 25 years, I still think that they have psychic spies. And I feel, other countries, of course, we already know that Russia was using psychic spies. And if anybody's interested, if you go to psychicangela.thomas.com and click on the workshop page, there is a link to Third Eye Spies that Dr. Russell Targ did a documentary on it. And you would be very surprised just how deep. And that whole documentary opens up with President Jimmy Carter speaking about a psychic that was able to use a map and locate a downed plane, a military downed plane that had advanced equipment and information on it, and she was able to find it before the enemies found it.
Yeah, and I know I'm most certainly sure that they still have that technology, that the program's kind of going on secretly. I mean, look at how long it took. I think it was last week that they finally came out with confirming the UFO landed at Roswell. Look at how long that's been.
Right.
And they're just giving us little breadcrumbs, but they're not telling us the full story. I mean, they got that information from the Freedom of Information Act, and but like I said, they're not giving us all the details. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to give us the full details. I mean, look at the Philadelphia experiment, Montauk Project, HAARP. I mean, I'm sure that, those programs, they say they're gone, but I think they're just continued somewhere else or more secretively.
Well, I'd say the CIA is very active in that sort of thing. When I watched Russell Targ's Third Eye Spies documentary, I had never known how Pat Price had passed. And Pat Price was a very well-known psychic and very talented. But after Pat Price worked with Targ and Puthoff, he did go directly and work for the CIA, and within 4 months he was dead. And so later on they discovered that there was a Russian that assassinated him. And so anyway, it can be dangerous business if you're working for the CIA.
Yeah, they're going to sell you down the river just to protect their own butts.
Yes, yes.
Now,
So.
let's get into some of your blog posts because we're slowly running out of time. But I want to ask, there's one on changing your life for the better. How can a psychic reading change your life for the better?
Well, the way I look at it is, a psychic, and I'm talking about a true psychic, that is able to give you insights about right now in this present time to the near future, whatever, depending on your areas of concern. And it allows you that insight, that bits of information allows you then to be more informed so that you can make a more informed decision. To know that something or someone is coming around the corner or a certain situation is coming around the corner, you can either prepare for it or ignore it or plan on something or divert it if you can. Not all things are divertible, of course. But to me, it really improves one's life when you have that information. So that's how I think that psychics can really help, in normal daily applications, whether it's business or family or relationships or money or whatever the case may be. And believe you me, when I say this, I have read on some fascinating things. And so, yeah, it does help to improve one's life. And I've had clients that'll say, no, I haven't planned on that. And I said, well, I'm just the messenger.
Yeah.
And I did have somebody, and I'll make this a quick story, but I did have a client who I said between right now, today, and the next 2 weeks, I said, you're going to be going to Florida. You're going to be invited to Florida. That's how it was. And I see you, going to Florida. And she said, Angela, there's no way. I've got, a child in first year college. I've got a other daughter is graduating high school, and money is just going out. And there's no way I can afford Florida. And I said, you don't have to worry about that. It's covered. You don't have to pay a thing. And she goes, no, no. So anyway, later on, after I finished the reading, she called me up because there was a recording of that reading.
Yeah.
And her sister stopped by her house and said, by the way, besides wanting to see what the psychic said, she said, my husband is going to Florida, and he's got to be down there for training for a week, and he wants me to go, but I don't want to go by myself and stay in the hotel room or go eat alone or shop alone. If you'll come with me, I will pay for the entire trip.
Mm-hmm.
So that client had not planned on Florida, but I was able to tell her, you're going to Florida, and it's covered financially.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, and that gets me kind of into my next question about intuition and everything and trusting your gut. And a lot of people don't do that. They think, oh, it's just, it's nothing, it'll go away or something like that. But how can people improve their intuitive muscle and trust in their gut?
Well, I mean, you always want to trust yourself and don't dismiss the messages that you are getting, because everyone is psychic. It's just some are scribblers and some are Picassos, right? Mm-hmm. But, I would say just to, try, and I'm not going to say meditate, although meditation is the key in which to build all of your psychic abilities on. But really breath work. It all begins with breath work. Yeah. And so that is going to help to calm your mind, your body, your emotions, so that you can begin to focus. And I've got a special breath work that I teach my students so that they're able to shift from this beta consciousness that you and I are in right now and go into alpha, the next state of consciousness down, And so I teach them a very simple technique with breath work that will shift them. But always trust your intuition. To me, like police officers and firefighters and search and rescue teams, these are natural psychics. You know, you always hear police officers say, I just had this gut feeling and I followed it. And so I would just say accept the information that you're getting and then plan on what you want to do with that information.
Yeah.
But if you do that, it's really going to enhance your own life, whether it's information you get about your career or about your partner or a family member or something happening with the money. Always trust what you're getting.
Yeah, and of course, I got to look into it because remember when we were talking about the Deep South earlier and stuff like that, and I thought it had to do with you. No, I'm still getting that message. So they're trying to get something across. It's like, shut up, wait. I'll look into it later.
Right.
And I'll look at and see what they're trying to show me, or if they're showing me an image, or if they're showing me or telling me a message or anything like that. But right now they keep just iterating the Deep South, so I don't know. I happened to look at my radar and like, nope, there's no tornadoes going on down there, so that's not it.
Right.
Now, there are, like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of people that still are real skeptical and everything like that. But why do you think there are so many people that still don't believe in psychic abilities and stuff like that?
Well, I think it has to do with the stereotypical thoughts about psychics. You know, they're circus people, or they're scammers, or they're dressing up like gypsies, or some of them are too general. You know, the wannabe psychics are too general that it could apply to anything or anybody. So I think that it's between the stereotypical psychic scammers and the fact that there are some people that, you know, they were raised that way. Like you mentioned earlier, there's no such thing as ghosts, or there's no such thing as spirits, or there's no such thing as, you know, this, that, or the other. It's all in your imagination. And a lot of people dismiss that because of it could be, you know, socially that, you know, it's not acceptable, or it could be their own religious belief systems that if they acknowledged it, then that would let the evil in, or something of this nature. So there's a lot of, I believe, factors that determine how, you know, people view or believe in psychics.
Yeah. And like, I agree wholeheartedly and everything like that. Yeah, I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll start wrapping things up. But tell us about the Masterclass series, the workshop, and the mentorship program that's on your website.
Well, the Masterclass series begins on Thursday, April 28th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. And that covers an array of different subject matters. Each class is 2 hours, and you learn techniques, approaches. You're able to do exercises in the class, and to also even work with a partner at times. And my mentorship program is designed for those individuals that cannot show up to a particular class, or show up, you know, maybe they're wanting more about clairvoyancy than they are psychics, or they want to learn, you know, something all well-rounded. And so I'm able to work with them one-on-one.
Yeah, okay. Now, where can people find out more information about you and the services that you do offer?
Well, they can simply go to psychicangelathomas.com, and you'll see the contact information there. There's a lot of pages on the site. You can get a lot of testimonials, and so a lot of information if you wish to participate in an online workshop or an online course.
Okay, and do you have like the links? Oh, sorry, that was
Sorry
a little
about
bit
that.
loud in my ear, but that's okay. But anyways, do you have like social media presence? I know you have Facebook. I know that because I already gave your page a like.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, you can find me at facebook.com/Psychic Angela Thomas.
Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to check because I know like I got like 5 different social media sites, but
Well, I do too. I've got the Psychic Angela Thomas because Angela Thomas is a very common name, like John Smith. So
yeah.
either one.
Okay. Now, how can people get a hold of you if they need one of those services or want to take part in the mentorship program or the workshops, or is there like well, you did mention contact and everything like that, so
Right. I have the email up there on the website, psychicangelathomas.com. You can email me. There's a phone number you can call or text. Or there's even a contact form if you want to go that way as well.
okay. And real quick, now there's a store on. You want to promote anything from your store or anything like that before we?
No, actually, the store is just a little consolidated area for either 15-minute, 30-minute, or 1-hour readings.
Okay.
And then it also covers the mentorship programs and the courses and workshops.
Okay, that's one link I didn't click on, so I was wondering. 'Cause
Yeah.
like me on my side, I got a store that has designs for T-shirts that I've designed and everything like that. I personally designed them and everything like that. So another talent of mine.
Great.
But no, I was wondering if you had like T-shirts and stuff like that for that store link. So I just wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to promote.
That's up and coming, but not anything right now.
All right. But I want to thank you for coming on the show and everything like that. I mean, it was a pleasure
Well, thank you
talking
for
to you
having
about
me.
this. Actually, real quick, how does telepathy? Because it just popped in my head. How does telepathy play a part in psychic readings or remote viewing?
Telepathy actually plays a big part in psychic abilities, and it is brain-to-brain communications. But telepathy is great to use, even if it's just in exercises. There's a lot of thought transference that comes along. So let's just say you and I are talking tonight, or maybe I'm seeing you in person. I may be able to pick up some of your thoughts or some of your words, but that's not really the biggest part. Telepathy really expands the mind, especially when you're doing the exercises and applying it towards something. So telepathy is actually very great. And, when you can communicate with another individual without the words, that's big.
Yeah. And I haven't gotten that good, but as far as...
Well, you'll have to take my class.
but as far as the spirits doing it, to me, I mean, they're good at that shit. Like I said,
You
getting
just
that
come
one
to
thing.
my class, Philip, and I'll teach you how to do it.
All right, but I want to thank you again for coming on the show and giving your points of view and your expertise on the subject and everything like that. It was a pleasure
great.
having you on.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you tonight, Philip, and thank you, everyone, for listening.
All right, and so let's start talking about tomorrow night is Friday night, and you know what that means. It's Friday night open lines where you can call in, share your stories, experiences, or ask a question about any of the topics that I have on the show, whether it be the paranormal, technology, science, health, wellness, dating, relationships, political stuff, conspiracies, or veteran issues. Now, if I don't know the answer, I will let you know I don't know the answer. but I will do my best. Even if I have to Google search it, I will come up with some kind of answer for you. But I will let you know if I don't have the answer. But also, you can go on Spreaker.com. Like I said, sign up for a free account. It don't cost a thing. You don't have to record anything. And you can hit on the live chat, live show, and it'll take you. There's a chat bar there. Type in your message. I do interact with my listeners and everything like that. And I know I'm just recently just gotten the show started again, so I know it's going to take a while to build up my listenership. But if you like the show, please share it around. Also, be sure to follow me on all the social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, LinkedIn, YouTube. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to all those. And you can stay up to date. Also, next week's shows are up on the show's website. Monday, we're going to be talking about astral travel and other realms. Tuesday, life after death. Wednesday, psychic channeling. Thursday, we're going to get into alien stuff. Conscious contact, full disclosure. And, of course, next Friday, again, Friday night open lines. Now, also, this Saturday, on the Talking the Night Facebook page, facebook.com/Talking the Night, I will be live streaming from the Fort Worth Stockyards. I'm going to go on the ghost tours as long as they got a spot open. If not, I'm going to talk to the person that runs the tour and the person that owns the Cowtown Winery and see if I can do it for free. I've done it in the past, so but I got better equipment and everything like that, so I want to film it and everything like that and live stream. So be sure to stay up to date on Facebook and all the social media sites. You'll be able to know exactly when I'm going to be live. I just know that I'm going to be down there Saturday with all my equipment, but I don't know exactly what time I'm going to start live streaming. So you have to pay attention to the social media to find out. And of course, you can find out all kinds of interesting stuff up on the Talking Night website. Story of the day, this day in history, and different ads. And speaking of ads, all my guests, there's at the top of the page, there is banner ads for each guest that will take you to their website. Go and support my guests, because again, without them, I would not have this show. So please support the guests, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the show tonight. And until tomorrow night, when I have Friday night open lines, I shall see you on the dark side. Good night from Talking the Night.
Late night, darkness has fallen. Turn on the radio, and you hear him talking. Listening to what he has to say, all about paranormal and all of the things. When he sounds off, you can hear